Billy Napier's approach might not always be exciting when it comes to the transfer portal, but it's a damn good approach at that.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. Happy Wednesday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find out my Rick Murphy Giants, Country NFL 33, and the Locked On Gators subtext. If you want to be an insider, get Scoop. Get evals from the spring game, get evals of high school recruits, I sent quotes from NFL running backs in there the other day. Just saying, join subtext.com/LockedOnGators. Links in the description below. But I did want to talk about Billy Napier's approach to the transfer portal because so many Florida Gators fans, myself included, we see kids hit the portal and we want them to be Florida Gators, right? We see good football players hit and we go, manja, manja, manja. We want and you know what? If you've ever watched the interview, you get the reference. If not, oops. But watch it. It's a funny movie. But the way that the Florida Gators have approached the transfer portal under Billy Napier, first of all, this second portal window is going better than I thought, just because I was told by someone in the program, hey, we're going to be really selective in this second window. Just know we're going to be really selective here. Great. There's not always noise for the Florida Gators, right? Like they're never going to be in for all of the top players. But even in this portal window, where I've been told, hey, we're going to be really selective, they're in for a good bit of the top players, right? Like that's a thing that they've done. They've at least reached out to a lot of guys, whether it was the top receiver at the time, whatever it may be. They've put work in with these top players. I personally, I would also obviously like Florida to be a little more urgent when trying to add players. But the way that Billy Napier has approached the transfer portal is, I think, the best way to approach it. You build most of your roster through high school recruiting and retaining that talent. You look at every year, the Florida Gators have kind of tried to essentially build a lineup with high school recruiting. They've tried to add a QB there. Of course, QB has just been an absolute mess recruiting-wise since Billy Napier got here, which I'm not blaming him for directly. I'm just saying it is what it is. It's been a mess. But you try to add a QB, a running back or two. You try to add 3 receivers. You try to add a tight end, maybe 2. You try to add 4 offensive linemen, 5 offensive linemen. You try to add 4 players in the defensive front. They've tried to add a nose tackle every year. You try to add 2 to 3 linebackers. You try to add 4 DBs. Like they've gone with that approach more often than not. This year, we know that, hey, they want to target 4 receivers. They're trying to go a little heavier there. You build most of your roster through high school recruiting. You recognize that most of those players will probably not pan out the way that you're expecting them to, because for just development in general, it very rarely goes the way you're expecting it to. For a million reasons. That's not coaching staff specific. Sometimes you recruit a kid, you think he's going to work hard, and he just doesn't. Sometimes you recruit a kid, you think he's going to be a fit, and he just isn't. Florida's tried to limit that risk factor. They've been, hey, we want verified speed, we want verified size. And you've heard Billy Napier say specifically verified speed a lot. You look at Tank Hawkins running a laser 40-yard dash. You get track athletes running 100 meters, things like that. You get verified speed, right? You also have some sources that have the GPS tracking the miles per hour on a player on the field, so you could track how fast they actually run on the field, not a 40, not a 100-meter dash with the football in their hands, things like that. You see, and Billy Napier is taking that approach to build most of your roster through high school recruiting and development. Then you use the transfer portal to address key immediate needs or add more young talent. That's why I talk about the players that you want in the transfer portal. Okay. You want there's two groups of players that you want to add to your roster through the transfer portal. There's the first group, which is you were a starter at your previous spot and a quality starter at that. That's an important thing. Not just a starter, a quality starter. Because if you're a bad player, but you're starting at safety for a team, does it matter? If you come over here and it's like, well, he was a starter, like you have to be a quality starter at your last spot. Okay. And if you're a quality starter there, then you're a quality starter and you're welcome here. Transferring for whatever reason. Want to be closer to home? Sure. Want to step up in competition, which we've seen Billy Napier take quite a few players that are looking to do that. Cam Jackson, Joey Slackman, Osiris Torrance, although he did have a leg up on the Osiris Torrance recruitment since, of course, he coached him at Louisiana. But we've seen Billy Napier do that a lot. And then, or you could be looking to move for NIL. I don't give a damn why you're coming. As long as you're coming to play hard and contribute and win games, I don't give a damn why you're coming. And then there's the other side of you want to add a young player that I think I lean more in this side. Not that I think this side's better, but I think I accept this side more willingly than a lot of Florida Gators fans. I think a lot of Florida Gators fans and a lot of college football fans in general want to go to the portal to add immediate impact players at all times. Sometimes you add a kid who is just a young player. He's got less than a year in high school, or yes, less than a year in college. And he's coming here and I look at him as an extension of the recruiting class. Deuce Spurlock a couple years ago, Jason Zandamela this year, who again, I mean, he is literally a freshman, as is Jameer Grimsley. But you've added guys that are very inexperienced. Keontae Good, when he committed, very inexperienced with potential to develop. And then you look at them again as an extension of high school recruiting class. And then there's a couple outliers like Triquez Bridges wasn't a quality starter, but he's coming here after playing safety in high school, corner at Oregon. He's coming here to play safety again and to be a depth piece. I'm not going to be too harsh about judging depth pieces, okay? I'm just not going to do it. But that's what you do. And then you talk about adding someone like a key immediate need. Elijhah Badger on campus right now. I think if he's a Florida Gator, he changes the win total for 2024. Genuinely, I think he does that. Not just him and not. I'm not just saying, oh, he's a Biletnikoff winner. He's going to do it. But I do think he changes the win total. We'll talk about that in just a second. First, we're going to get a quick word from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. That's the formula for winning championships, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your parts guaranteed to fit your ride or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast and on YouTube. And like I said, the Florida Gators have Elijhah Badger, Arizona State wide receiver, currently on campus for an official visit. And like I said, I think he changes the win total expectation for the Florida Gators if he is a Florida Gator commitment, which again, we'll talk about. But I think he should be, if that's even a possibility. But I'm going to pull up the win total right now because I don't think he would change the Vegas win total. I don't think there's many wide receivers out there who can commit to a program and change their win total expectation, just because it's a hard thing to do for a wide receiver in college football. Right now, it's set at 5.5 wins. The Florida Gators win total on FanDuel set at 5.5 wins is plus money. Want to point that out. Over 5.5 wins is plus 156. Under 5.5 wins is minus 194. We might have to talk about that on tomorrow's show because that's bonkers to me. But I don't know if he changes that for FanDuel. He probably gets you, probably gets you to plus 130 or something like that for 5.5 wins. However, for myself, and I think a lot of Florida Gators fans, Elijhah Badger changes the expectation here. Florida Gators fans can acknowledge that, hey, receiver at the top of the room, not exactly awesome. There's depth, which we'll talk about later, but receiver at the top of the room right now, there's nobody like proven to be great outside of Trey Wilson. But even then, you could argue that he's not. But I think everybody will say Trey Wilson, freshman All-American, pretty damn good at football. Having two high-quality starting receivers really cannot be emphasized enough. It can't. Having that second guy is huge. And right now, the Florida Gators have one in Trey Wilson. That's it. And so having Elijhah Badger, I don't personally care if you go, hey, Elijhah Badger's wide receiver 1 and Trey Wilson's wide receiver 2. Or if you say, hey, Trey Wilson's wide receiver 1, Elijhah Badger's wide receiver 2. I don't care. Because truly, the way that I would look at it is that the Florida Gators would have two wide receiver 1s. 1A, 1B, I don't give a damn how you rank them. The Florida Gators would have two guys who any given game can be your wide receiver 1. And right now, I think the Florida Gators have one guy who can be your wide receiver 1 and two guys who could be your wide receiver 2. In Khalil Jackson, who I know Florida Gators fans are typically higher on than I am, in Khalil Jackson and Chimere Dike, who I think Florida Gators fans are typically lower on him than I am. But I think you've got a number 1 and two number 2s right now. Adding Elijhah Badger gives you two number 1s, two number 2s, and odds are you're going to get 2 or 3 of them on the field at the same time, maybe the rare occasion of all 4. But for a team to have someone like Elijhah Badger, for the Florida Gators to have someone like Elijhah Badger, would open things up because you have Trey Wilson that can run whatever routes you're going to ask him to run and continue to do his gadgety stuff. You'd have Elijhah Badger who can win on the outside and wins over the middle. We've talked about this repeatedly. The folks at PFF, they've been awesome. They gave me the backdoor juice there. They gave me that information of, hey, 51.1% of his routes were in breakers, so posts, digs, crossers, which Florida Gators friends, crossers. 51.1% of his routes were that. Another 25% were go routes, just verticals. That sounds like what Billy Napier wants to do, right? I know you didn't see a ton of vertical routes last year. Go back to the Anthony Richardson days. You see it. It was an offensive line, and it was a roster issue last year. Offensive line, Graham Mertz doesn't typically go deep too often unless he knows he has the time to step into the throw. Hopefully get that this year. But Elijhah Badger is a perfect scheme fit, skill set wise, for the Florida Gators, right? So having guys that can win and do that is huge. Having Elijhah Badger that can win consistently on the outside, having Trey Wilson, who I think can win pretty consistently on the outside. He's got to work on some route running things, but can win pretty consistently and also do all the gadgety stuff and also just catch it underneath and run, as can Elijhah Badger. Yeah, that's huge because you can't double anyone, or you can double anyone, but then the other one's just going to kill you. And I've said it before, and I will say it again. For me personally, and we will probably never truly get all of the information here as far as medicals go. It's a similar thing with the NFL Combine where when I cover the NFL draft a lot, when I write reports on like Peyton Wilson at NC State or Kingsley Aguakin even this past year, I go, hey, I don't know what the medicals say, but this is what the film says. And if the medicals check out, take him here. For Elijhah Badger, I don't know what the medicals say. I don't know what the medicals will say. I can tell you, though, what the film says. And hell, even what the analytics say. If you want to take either approach of the film versus analytics argument, they both work in Elijhah Badger's favor. Okay. I don't care, or I don't know what the medicals say. But if the medicals clear, if the medicals check out and Florida's staff says, hey, you can take him and we'll clear him to play, take him. And if he isn't a Florida Gator and his medicals check out, then it's a whiff. His film getting him on campus makes me believe, hey, you can win this recruitment, you can land this commitment. And if his medicals check out and you don't land the commitment, then you whiffed. And it's as simple as that. We are going to talk about what the receiver room would look like with Elijhah Badger added, because again, I think Florida's the front runner, just if he's cleared. We'll talk about that in a second. First, we're going to get a quick word from GameTime. GameTime is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA and MLB, which makes getting playoff tickets for the NBA even faster and easier. Pacers, you suck. I'm just going to keep throwing my shots in there. Just you know who you are. And if you think I'm targeting you, I might be. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off or first pitch. I went to the Mets game yesterday. Yeah, which thank goodness the rotation changed, because I thought I was going to have to watch Jose Quintana, but I got to watch Buto instead. So thankfully that changed on game day. But I bought the tickets 6 hours before the game. Cheap tickets, right field, right in the sun, right in the Coke corner. It's awesome. Love sitting there. Just that's genuinely my favorite spot, because you get the sun the whole game. So even if it's a little windy, chilly, you're still good. It was a nice day. It was a beautiful day. It was a good day for baseball, right? And it was Dinger Tuesday. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. To wrap up today's show, we're going to take a look at what the receiver rotation would probably look like if Elijhah Badger were to commit to the Florida Gators. Okay? I look at Elijhah Badger as someone that would play the same role as Khalil Jackson, but better. And again, I've been very open about this. I'm not very sold on Khalil Jackson, just because the circus catches, the contested catches are awesome to watch. They're fun. They're exciting. I'd prefer a guy who doesn't need to make those kinds of catches consistently like Khalil Jackson does, because he can consistently create separation from the defense. So that's why I look at Elijhah Badger as someone who that size skill set, that those size measurements, he can play that role and create separation consistently. I think that he would start over Khalil Jackson. I would think that Trey Wilson would start outside on the opposite side, probably go in motion a lot and do a good bit of the things that we saw from Trey last year, but also do things that we saw Ricky do last year, and do things that we didn't see either of them do last year. We'd probably see things open up a bit. And then I would look at Chimere Dike as starting in the slot. He just because he played a huge majority of his snaps in the spring game out of the slot. Graham Mertz clearly trusts him, because during the spring game, there were quite a few times where Chimere Dike wasn't really open and Graham Mertz was still comfortable just throwing him the ball and trusting him to make a play there, which I disagree with. I want to put that one out there. But I think that as far as running the slot, he's reliable. He's consistent. He's kind of what you think of as the not Brian Thomas type of slot receiver. Brian Thomas there for Jags fans. Is that a good enough comparison for you. He's not that. I don't think he's a dynamic playmaker, but I do think he's very reliable underneath and pretty consistent. So having that consistency with the explosiveness of Elijhah Badger, of Trey Wilson, I think paired, it's a nice little complementary piece to the two of them, right? And again, I'm not mad if DK starts. I don't think he's exceptional at any one thing. But then that would leave your next rotation of Khalil Jackson, and then kind of a bunch of questions, right? You've got Andy Jean, who I think is a pretty good route runner. I think can separate a good bit, but we haven't really seen him play. He's been banged up throughout his time in Gainesville. Will he step up? Will he stay healthy? You've got Marcus Burke, who looked improved in the spring game, made an insane, one of the most difficult catches you're going to see. Made that. Is he ready to contribute significantly and consistently? You got Aiden Mizell. Is he ready to take the next step? Is he more refined as a route runner? I think the Florida Gators have the luxury of saying we are deep with a lot of youth at receiver. It's just a matter of who steps up and who develops. And I've said this a million times. Hell, I said it on this episode. I think when you've got a lot of guys that you're counting on developing and becoming someone who you can rely on consistently, I think realistically, you're not going to get a lot of those guys that actually pan out. And that's okay. Okay, like that's fine. That's life. That you're gonna have a lot of guys who you have faith in, who you have expectations for, and they don't reach those expectations. And that's perfectly fine. That's acceptable. That's life. Like that's just what the numbers tell you. So Florida, you've got 7 good young receivers right now. You need 2 or 3 of them to take the next step. You can realistically figure that out by the time the season starts and find the rest of your rotation. But right now, with Elijhah Badger, there's 4, maybe 5, depending on how you feel about some guys, receivers that are reliable. Tank Hawkins, I think, can be reliable in strictly that gadget role, which is fine by me. If that's the role you play, that's the role you play, especially as a true freshman. That's fine. We saw Trey Wilson find a ton of success do it. We saw Trey Wilson find success running routes. Now he can do that too with Tank running underneath. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. We'll be back tomorrow. Talk more Florida Gators football for Locked On Gators. I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Giants, Country, and NFL 33, and I will see you all next time.